Today, we're going to be preparing for the algebra regents by evaluating expressions. So, what we're going to do is start with number 13 and let's look at it together. I can see that it says if r equals 2 and s equals -7, what is the value, the absolute value of r minus the absolute value of s? So to start, we're going to be rewriting this and then substituting the variables in for the values 2 and -7. To start, I'm going to write the absolute value sign and then an open parentheses. And then on the inside, instead of r, I'm going to write 2, close parentheses, close absolute value sign, minus absolute value sign, open parentheses. And then instead of s, -7, close parentheses, close absolute value sign. Once we do that, we're going to go into our calculator and we're simply going to sort of rewrite this expression. First thing we're going to need to do is click on math and then go over 1 and then simply press enter because we're already on the first option where it says ABS, which is short for absolute value. Now we're going to need to put in a second open parentheses, and this is really important. I'm going to write 2, close parentheses, and then close parentheses, minus. And then instead of a parentheses at first, we're going to need to put the absolute value sign. To do that, we're going to go to math, over 1 to the right, press enter. Great. Open parentheses once more. -7. Be sure to not put the minus sign. You're going to put the negative sign. 7. Close parentheses, and then close parentheses one final time to sort of seal it up. We're going to press enter, and when we do, we get -5. -5 is our answer, which is, when we look at our options, option number 2. Great. Let's look at number 14. It says, if x equals -3, what is the value of the absolute value of x minus 4 minus x squared? So let's rewrite this together. I can see it says, starts with the absolute value sign, and then I'm going to do open parentheses, -3, close parentheses, minus 4, and then absolute value sign, minus, open parentheses, -3, close parentheses, and then squared. Let's go back to our calculator. We're going to be going to that quite often today, and press clear, and I can see that we're going to need to start again with the absolute value sign. To do that, we're going to go to math. We're going to go over 1, press enter, open parentheses, -3, close parentheses twice, minus 4. And you know what? I made a mistake. We don't want to put that second parentheses in there. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to go back. We're going to do a minus sign, 4, close parentheses. And that's what it should look like. That's what we should have so far. Now we're going to do minus, open parentheses, -3, close parentheses, and then it's squared. So we'll do the squared symbol. Should look like that. Let's press enter and see what the answer is. Number 2. So if we go to question 14, we can see if -2 is option, and it sure is. So the answer to number 14 is option 2, -2. Questions 15 through 19 all involve factorials. So what is a factorial and how does it work? Instead of going to 15, let's start with question 16, and then we'll go back to 15. So I can see that number 16 says, an expression equivalent to 3 factorial is what? So this exclamation point we call factorials, and the way we write a factorial is, in this case, 3 times 2 times 1. So for example, the factorial of 7, if we were to do it right there, would be 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. But that's not asking us, but 16 is. So if we look at this, this would be option number 1 would be like 3 squared, for example, and option number 2 is the only appropriate one. In fact, this is the basic definition of a factorial. So 2 is the correct answer for number 16. When we look at number 15, it says the value of 5 factorial is what? And it gives us a couple options. I'm going to show you how to punch this into the calculator to get the appropriate answer. So you could do this, I guess, 2 ways. You could do 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And we know that 5 times 4 is 20, and then 20 times 3 is 60, and then 60 times 2 is 120. Oops. 60 times 2 equals 120. And so that involves lots of math, and there's a high probability of making a mistake. Another way to write that pretty easily is simply clicking on math and then going to the left or 2 to the right. And if we go down, we see that we've got on option number 4 that exclamation point, the factorial sign. So if I write 5 math, go over to the PRB for probability, and then go down to the number 4 factorial sign, and I press enter, we get a little something that looks like this. And if we press enter, we can see that it gives us the answer 120. So when we go back to this problem, I can see that the answer to number 15 is option number 4, 120. So number 17 says the value of factorial 7 divided by the factorial of 3 is what? So let's go to our calculator, and we're going to use that little method we just covered to sort of help us out with this option. So what we can do is we can do open parentheses and then 7. I'm going to do the factorial sign, so I'm going to go to math, over, and press enter. Close parentheses, because this is the numerator, we needed to tell the calculator that this is on top, divided by, open parentheses, 3. Go to math, go over to PRB, go down to option number 4, close parentheses. And when we do that, and we press enter, we get 840. 840 is an option number 1. The answer to number 17, number 1. Excellent. Let's take a look at number 18. It says, very similar to number 17, what is the value of 8 factorial divided by 4 factorial? We're going to go to our calculator, and what we're going to do is, very similarly, we're going to do open parentheses, 8, math, and I can, instead of going down, I'm simply going to press 4, close parentheses, divided by math, probability, and then instead of going down, you can simply press 4 on the calculator. Oops, I forgot to add the sign. Open parentheses, 4 math, close parentheses. This is what you should have in your calculator. When you press enter, you're going to get 1680. The answer to number 18 is also option number 1. Number 19 says, the value of the expression 6 factorial plus 5 factorial times 3 factorial divided by 4 factorial minus 10 is what? And then we've got a few options. So what we're going to do is, when I'm looking at this, I know that we've got a division going on, and we're going to need to make sure that we demarcate the numerator from the denominator. And to do that, we're going to put parentheses on both sides. So now we're going to go into our calculator, and let's do 6 factorial plus, and then I'm going to do the open parentheses, 5 times 3 factorial, close parentheses, and then close parentheses, divided by, I'm going to do open parentheses, 4 factorial, close parentheses, minus 10. And now when we press enter, it should give us the answer. The answer is 740. That is option number 3. The answer to number 19 is 740. Let's take a look at number 21. It says, if the expression 3 minus 4 squared plus 6 divided by 2 is evaluated, what would be done last? Well, we learned an acronym that's going to help us out right now, and it's going to come in pretty handy when we're taking this Regents, and that is PEMDAS. And we know that PEMDAS stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, adding, subtracting. This is the order of operations, and we're going to be going from left to right as we do this. So I see that the first thing we would do, because there are no parentheses, as we could sort of cancel that out, is we would do the exponents, and then if there's multiplication, we would do that, but there's not. There is division, however. And then it says adding, subtracting, but I know that we've got a subtraction and an addition problem in here, but do not be confused, because when we're doing this, the addition and the subtraction are sort of in the same category, and we always go from left to right. So we're going to start here on the left side and then work our way to the right side. Subtraction goes before the addition sign because it's on the left side, and we're going from left to right. So the last thing that we would do in this problem is add. Adding is option number 3. It's going to be our last operation. Let's take a look at number 22. It says, what is the first step in simplifying the expression? And then here's our expression right here. I remember that we're always going to rely on PEMDAS, our order of operations, to help us out. And it says, what is the first step in simplifying the expression? And P stands for parentheses. And I can see that there is a set of parentheses. So even though there is an exponent in here, that goes second, we're going to do parentheses first. And when we're inside the parentheses, we've got 3 operations. We've got subtraction, multiplication, and then adding. So we're going to go back to our order of operations, and we know that we do multiplication before we divide, add, or subtract. Really add or subtract. So I can see that the very first thing that we're going to do in parentheses is do 3 times 4. We would do multiplying before adding or subtracting, and is that an option? It is option number 4, multiply 3 by 4. The answer to number 22 is option number 4. Let's take a look at number 23. It says, the height of the golf ball hit into the air is modeled by the equation h equals negative 16t squared plus 48t, where h represents the height in feet and t represents the number of seconds that have passed since the ball was hit. What is the height of the ball after 2 seconds? So 2 seconds indicates the number of seconds that have passed since the ball was hit, and that's what we're going to be plugging in. So in this case, t sort of stands for time, and what we want is the height. H is going to be height. So I'm going to rewrite this equation. H equals negative 16 open parentheses 2 close parentheses squared plus 48 open parentheses 2 close parentheses. So that's what we're going to be using. Let's open up our calculator, and I can see that we'll find out what the height is in just a minute. So we're going to do negative 16 open parentheses 2 close parentheses squared plus 48 open parentheses 2 close parentheses. Nice. So once we have this in our calculator, we're going to press enter, and the answer is 32. And is that an option? It sure is. Answer to number 23 is option number 2, 32 feet. It's the amount of time it traveled. Or yes, the amount of time it traveled. Number 24, Brett was given the problem, evaluate 2x squared plus 5 when x equals 3, and Brett thinks the answer is 41. Was he correct? Let's see what our answer is. So what we're going to do, just like before, we're going to evaluate this expression. I'm going to write 2 open parentheses 3 close parentheses squared plus 5. Let's go into our calculator. 2 open parentheses 3 close parentheses squared plus 5. The answer is 23. His answer is 41. So no, his answer is not correct.